opposite hormone of insulin. Insulin's telling your body store fat. Glucagon tells your body, hey, mobilize the fat. Well, growth hormone, as adults, okay, we don't make that much growth hormone, but we do make growth hormone. We can't survive without it. So if we can optimize what we do make, it's going to help you preserve lean body mass, keep your metabolism higher. So you want to make sure, yes, you're getting in enough protein. Another question to ask then is about exercise. One, are you doing it? Okay, that's probably number one question. But is your exercise too routine? Your body will get used to whatever exercise program you're doing. Okay? So if your body gets used to it, it doesn't get the same out of it as it did originally when you first started it. So if your exercise gets too routine, you don't get as much out of it. And again, the real trick with exercise is that you want to, again, preserve lean body mass, keep your metabolism high as possible. Exercise alone typically doesn't make you lose weight, but if you can preserve or build lean body mass, you're going to increase your metabolism and subsequently then keep you on the weight loss track. Now, the flip side of exercise too routine is, are you actually exercising too hard? And that can also slow down weight loss. Inherently, that doesn't make sense, but it actually can do that, because if we're exercising too hard, what it tends to do is our stress hormones, cortisol, go way up. When cortisol levels go up, it's hard to lose weight, because cortisol is one of those hormones that makes us resistant to weight loss. Now, this was a survival mechanism kind of back in 10,000 years ago when we were stressed. Okay, typically our biggest stress was not being able to find food. Okay? And so when our bodies were stressed, you want to be resistant to losing weight. So stress typically makes us resistant to losing weight, which leads us really into the next question you need to ask yourself is, are you handling your stress all right? Because if you're stressed, if you're going through a very stressful event, whether it be a social stressor, at work stressor, a family stressor, whatever, a medical stressor, if you're not handling stress well, then typically it's going to make it harder to lose weight, and that can kind of turn on the plateau, so to speak. And finally, a couple other things to look at as far as just asking yourself, what about caffeine or artificial sweeteners? Now, inherently, both of those don't make sense in a weight loss plan of, turning off weight loss. But caffeine, some people are sensitive to caffeine because it will actually increase your stress hormones. It's a stimulant, and as a stimulant, it can increase stress hormones. Again, increased stress hormones make us resistant to losing weight. Or, okay, so you may want to be cutting back on that caffeine or potentially getting rid of caffeine. The second thing with caffeine is actually caffeine is a stimulant, can often stimulate appetite, which then makes it kind of harder to stick with the plan and subsequently then are your calories too high. Artificial sweeteners, slightly different there. Artificial sweeteners can turn off weight loss for a couple of reasons. One is that it tends to make us want sweet things. We get used to the very sweet taste, and artificial sweeteners tend to be so much sweeter, sometimes thousands of times sweeter than actual sugar is. So artificial sweeteners have no calories in them, but it trains us to want something sweet. And if it trains us to want something sweet, it potentially then makes it harder to stick with the diet plan. And again, look at, okay, have I actually been truly on my diet plan? The other thing with artificial sweeteners is that often you can actually increase insulin levels. Now again, inherently that doesn't make sense. But if you think about it, when we're taking something as artificial sweetener, again, it's much sweeter than what we would normally get with regular food. So with the artificial sweetener and the sweetness you're tasting, your first response from your body is that it thinks that you're getting something that has a lot of calories in it. It's expecting those carbohydrate calories, those sugar calories, and then it doesn't get them. Okay, but it's expecting those sugar calories, so your body's all ready to get prepared for that. It releases insulin. And insulin's that hormone that would help you keep your blood sugars normal, because your body's anticipating that it's going to get a sugar load. And so it's going to release the insulin. Insulin then will actually somewhat drop blood sugar, which then increases cravings and hunger. But actually, with the insulin levels going up, insulin's again that hormone that tells your body store fat. So artificial sweeteners actually can kind of turn your body into fat storing mode, even though there's actually no calories in it. And our bodies typically will do whatever your body is told to do. And one of the biggest things that tells your body to do something is insulin. And a major thing it tells you to do is store fat. So potentially getting rid of artificial sweeteners then. All right, so now what do we actually do about this? We went through the questions to kind of ask yourself about, we've gotten to that plateau. And now, okay, what are we going to do about these things? Kind of some of the answers to these questions, which I hit a little bit on during the questions themselves. But now we're going to go through some definitive answers here. Okay, for weight loss plateaus, what can you do? Well, number one, I encourage people to do is write it down. Go back to journaling. It is the basic thing, is because if you don't write it down, we'll never really figure out where the problem area is. You have to write down literally everything. When I say everything, I'm referring to what you're eating, what you're drinking, how much activity you're getting, and your exercise. You really got to make sure you're counting that carbohydrate and protein and the water. So you really want to watch all those things. Now, if they're all good, okay, then it's like, okay, how do we work with that? One is, again, I will still say, is push the water. Hydration, hydration, hydration. Okay? You also want to look at some other things. Sometimes going back to the beginning, and often at the beginning of your weight loss plan, people often did what is referred to as jumpstart diet. And basically it's kind of using some of the protein shakes, meal replacement shakes, and with that then you can kind of get that restarted. What it does by doing that, it gives you the good protein sources, so you know your protein is going to be high. It's typically going to be very controlled carbohydrates.